You're More Powerful introduces H.E.A.L.E.D, 6 steps to live a more powerful, peaceful, inspired, soul purpose life. How's that sound? Great, say great. This group participation. Hey, there's a bunch of research that show, number one, people that have lived by spiritual principles, have spiritual faith, they tend to be happier, they tend to be healthier, they tend to deal with stress a lot better. People also that are living their purpose in life are the same. They live a more fulfilling life, they tend to have less disease, they tend to have stay younger and healthier. So when we combine the two, that we have a spiritual foundation and we're living our purpose, then if we can do that and move together, create a movement, have more people living their soul purpose from that reference point, then maybe we can make a bit of a difference and an impact in our life while we're here. Is that cool? Would you like the world to be a little bit different because we live? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, this was based on the book, You're More Powerful Than You Think. They're on up there. And this is the H.E.A.L.E.D system. I like to say all this brilliance created, but really I didn't create it all. This is something that actually fell in my lap. And we're all here for a purpose, and that's what it's based on. And when you're ready and you come to that consciousness, and your consciousness and everything in your life aligns, you don't have to discover it. You don't have to find it. In fact, you can't avoid it. And so this is something that fell in my lap, that the system just came to me, and then I started having all these visions. I just started writing, and then 9 years later I had to live this system. And the reason this came about was I felt very blessed that I began the first half of my life as a chiropractor, and I felt very blessed that I was living my purpose. It's not an easy life fulfilling your purpose, but it is more fulfilling. And I just noticed that a lot of people didn't know that. You know, they walk around, they don't know what their purpose is, and they have a very different perspective on life. And again, that's why, so when this fell on me, how you doing, brother? Then this system was developed, and this leads you to purpose. So it starts with honor God within yourself. And really what that is realizing that we're spirit first. Once you get that, once you understand that, and you can actually live it, not just as knowledge in your head, but experience that from a day-to-day basis, realizing that we are spirits on a human journey. When you live from that divine reference point, everything in your life changes. And once you do that, then exercise loving yourself and others. Now you can begin not only to love yourself, but actually to live that way and to experience it. Love is not just knowledge in our head, it's something that we can experience on a higher level. Then once you get through that, then A is accept forgiveness for yourself and others. So once you see yourself from a higher consciousness, then you can let go of the past. You can release shame, guilt, resentment, whatever negative emotions. And even though we think we may have forgiven others or ourselves, being that we're emotional beings, we can still have that energy that's trapped in our body. And until we release that energy and get to a higher consciousness and realize that everything in our life had a purpose that's leading us to our purpose, and you can have an intention that's leading to our purpose, and you can reframe your past. You can't change the facts of your past, but you can change the meaning. Once you change the meaning to a more empowering meaning, then all the chaos, all the noise, internal noise begins to settle down. Then you realize that human time, earthly time, has past, present, future, so time is horizontal, when time, in reality, spiritual time, is vertical. When we can live in vertical moments, in total presence, and have that consciousness, then we can hear the whispers. When you can hear the whispers of God and you're innate speaking to you, you don't have to find your purpose, you can't avoid it. Everything in your life has led you to it, and you can see how every event in your life has had that intention. Then finally, deliver it to the world. And this was a system that, like I said, I didn't think of this. It was given to me. I wrote it down in faith, through prayer, and then I started writing it. So this is the third time we've been here. We started with an overview of all the systems, and then we take each step into more depth. So last time it was all about honoring God within yourself. Today, it's all about exercise, loving yourself and others. What's it about?
Exercise.
Exercise, and that means giving it. So what we're gonna go through today is a shift in consciousness. Now, as we go through the healed system, this is pretty easy. This can be knowledge. If you have any type of spiritual faith, you may believe that you're a spiritual being first. But what's going to happen is there's going to be an ascent in consciousness. This is a higher level of consciousness. This is a steeper climb. So this is like the foothills when you're walking up a trail. This is like, man, I'm having to work a little bit, right? It's a little steeper. This is a tough climb, like on a hike, and this is like a vertical ascent. This is, you want crampons, and you got to stick your whatever those things are. You want an ice axe or whatever you're climbing, and then it tends to settle down the other side. So we're just going to begin the climb, a little bit steeper climb in consciousness. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You guys into that?
Yes.
Okay, so 2 questions can change your life, and change your perspective of yourself and your whole life. Are you ready?
Yes.
Question number 1. If I asked you if you loved yourself, what would you say?
Yes.
No! You'd say, yeah, man, I'm pretty cool, right? Most of the time, sometimes could be a little bit better. Yeah, I love myself.
Used to not.
If I asked you, do you love yourself like God loves you, what would you say? Now that may be a whole nother level of consciousness. Like, what's that? Do we even understand that? So when I started writing this chapter, I just wrote that down. If I asked yourself if you love you, what would you say? I'm like, hey, I think I'm pretty cool, And then right under that, I didn't write this. This came to me. I just wrote this, and then I said, I have no idea what that's like. And this one chapter took me 8 months to a year to write, because this whole system, I had to live it to write it. This isn't knowledge. This is what I had to go through. When I went through this chapter, this was the hardest, steepest climb. Because really, truly learning to love yourself, even a fraction of how God loves us, you view yourself, you view the world, you act differently. All my self-deprecating habits and self-destructive habits seem to fall away. You don't even want to criticize or judge. I mean, everything in your life changes from the inside out. Heart power and love is 5,000 times the manifesting power of mind energy. So law of attraction, we all watch The Secret, right? So you think, your thoughts, your words, thoughts become things, and all these principles. Heart energy has 5,000 times the manifesting power of mind energy. So when we take that 18-inch journey, it's the longest, shortest journey of our life, and we can move from referencing from mind to heart, heart to spirit. Everything in your life changes. How you view people changes. You change. Your tone changes. You don't age the same. You can see people, how they age and their stress. You can see their stress. You can feel their anxiety versus someone who's joyous seems to illuminate. And it doesn't really matter what you look like in the mirror, because other people will see that light that you give off, and it's the light of joy and the light of love. How cool is that?
Cool.
So you're not a human being on a spiritual journey. You're a spirit on a human journey. Those are very different reference points. Humanity, it's like a hologram turning from humanity to divinity. So we're spirit in a physical body having a human experience. That's very different. What's that mean? That means we're going to, all the human experiences, we get to experience the emotions from total depression, even suicide, all the way into bliss. And when you come from a spiritual reference point, we realize that we can honor the depression the same as we can honor pure love and bliss. It's part of our human experience. Now, coming from that frame creates an inside out. What kind?
Inside out.
An internal peace and joy that you can reference in any condition, because what's inside of you is greater than anything that's outside of you. And when we think we're a human being seeking spiritual experiences, we have needs. We have deprivation. We have scarcity. We have all these other things, as opposed to living in the state of peace, joy, abundance, and knowing that nothing outside of us, the only thing that can affect us outside of us is our perception. Now, I'm not giving you anything that you guys don't already know. The difference is, do we know this as knowledge, but what do we experience on a day-to-day basis? And that's really what this is about the experience. So there's this whole H.E.A.L.E.D system. You know, this is kind of a study group, and I encourage questions and interaction. And if you don't interrupt, then I'll just keep going on and on and on. So I always have too much to say. So just raise your hand, blurt out. You know, if you have ADD habits, blurting is acceptable in this crowd. Is that okay? Inappropriate blurting.
Hallelujah.
Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God. 2 decisions that will change your life. So I'm starting a You're More Powerful podcast, and the goal is to interview spiritual leaders all over the world. I don't know if you know this gentleman.
Who's that?
Just some guy. But he's changed the lives of millions of people. And really what he started was he went all the way, he had a car accident, broke his neck, lost his wife, lost his job, lost everything, was actually homeless, begging on the street, living in a tent for over a year. And shortly after, he managed to scrape up enough money to get a place, cardboard shack practically, little place. And he said, God, what am I not getting? Like in his frustration, I don't get it. What am I not getting? And he heard a voice, and I'm paraphrasing, that basically said, do you really want to know, or are you just venting? And he talks about this on the podcast. It should be coming out this week. So you guys, if you sign up on your mailing list, I'll send it to you. It's really a game changer. And he said, well, I'm actually venting, but I actually really want to know, what am I not getting? And so once he started having and dialoguing and documenting this conversation, at some point, he came up with 2 decisions. And these 2 decisions changed his life. And I think these are 2 life-changing decisions for all of us. The first one was release any doubt. That's a choice. Meaning, he believes and feels, whether it's God talking to him or his own innate, God through him talking to him, that if I want to change my life, then I'm taking what I'm being told, what I'm being given, and I'm going to release any doubt that anything exists. What's that mean? I'm releasing any doubt of my humanity. And I'm moving into the belief and total faith that I'm spirit first, and that whatever this message is coming through me, that this is truth. Isn't that fascinating?
Amazing.
Yeah,
My
so
Lord.
think about if you actually believed that you are spirit first, and you release any doubt that you have a total connection, you're created in perfection. It says in Genesis, we're created in the likeness and image of God, and I commented on the last one all about honor God, the contradictions in religion. If we really believe that we're created in perfection, we're here for a human experience, then our whole reference point, and believe that with 100% faith, our whole reference point on ourself shifts above any condition, above our humanity, above any perceived imperfections, and we realize that we're a unique being here for our own individual purpose, and we have all the gifts we need for our purpose only. Does that make sense? Meaning, like, all this other people have all these other stuff, but we have these gifts for our purpose. So we don't need to compare, we don't need to do anything, we have our own specific purpose, and we come in with those gifts, and that's it. Right? So if we release any doubt of that, and then we can believe, if we can do that, that is a choice. And we have a very powerful tool, it's called our mind, that we actually decide, and we make a must decision, and we choose, consciously choose, then we eliminate all other options. Which means what falls away? Number 1, your pain of your humanity, not to mention other insecurities and other things, and how you feel about yourself. So if you're spirit first, we are not our mind. Here's where our humanity comes in. When we think we are our mind is when we start to have problems. Because our mind's basic instinct is survival. It wants to protect us from any risk. Yet we're here for a sole purpose to create something that's never been created before. Someone else may have done something along the same topic, could be in the same industry, but they express themselves the way they do, right? So we go through this tonight. You're not going to hear anything that anybody else hasn't told you. You may hear it in a different way that may land on you, that may shift your consciousness, and that's the intention, to have you pursue that divine reference point and your soul purpose. So we're not our mind. Now, if we're going to create something that's never been created, and the primary job of our mind is survival, it doesn't want us to take risk. Yet, our whole life and purpose is about risk. So if we know we're not our mind is a tool. We'll talk about that. We're not our body. And Neil goes over this in the podcast so you receive. We're not our mind. We're not our body. What are we? We are the being before thinking. Now catch that. If your mind is thinking, you're the existence before thinking. You are actually exist before your mind, before your thoughts. That's who we are. So we're a spiritual being with a mind. So what we have actually is spirit, mind, body, right? Spirit is life force energy. We're life force. Put your finger on your chest, say, I'm life force.
I'm life force.
Say, I'm life force. Group participation.
I'm life force.
One more time, I'm life force.
I'm life force.
Okay, now what is about life force? Life force constantly creates. So we're like a fire hose that won't turn off. So if you got a fire hose in your hand that won't turn off, we might want to be real careful where we direct it. Would you guys agree? Yeah. So we are life force creative energy. Our mind focuses life force. Our mind focuses life force. We use our body as a physical tool that we manifest and create on the physical plane. This is our vehicle. Our mind and our body focus life force to create and manifest on the physical plane. This is the Holy Triune. This is our Holy Triune. Right? Father, Son, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing. Spirit, mind, body. Right?
The triune signature.
Yeah, Jesus is body, is physical manifestation. Right? Father is spirit, mind. You have the Holy Spirit, right? Mm-hmm. And Father is divinity. It's the mindset. It's consciousness. So there's no difference. This is who we are. It's all the same thing. I choose this. This actually was given to me. This vision was given to me. I was living up in Seattle. You know, I woke up in this. You ever wake up and like your body's just vibrating differently? You got a challenge. I just woke up and I said, man, I need to change the whole life coaching industry because all this bullshit about. It's okay if I use a little bit of profanity.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Pattern interruption.
Yeah, please.
The whole wheel of life. You know the life coaching wheel of life. And have you guys ever used that? You know, you have different categories. They're like spokes in a wheel. And well, my finances are an 8, my relationships are a 3, and you know my career is at a 6. And how does the wheel roll? Come on, man, that's old school stuff. So hey, it can work. But if we apply this template, and one of the things, if you do get the book, we talk about core values. It's one of the ways you learn to love yourself. So we have a spirit, mind, body template to your core values: family, career, finances, your physical, spiritual, emotional health. Then you have spiritual principle. Anytime you're aligned with universal laws, then you channel universal energy. You have more power than you think. You have more power in your body, in your spirit, than you think in your mind. So when you apply that template to all the significant areas of your life, you have universal laws, you have intentions and goals and visions, and here's a physical manifestation. Now you have spiritual universal laws applied to every core value in your life. You are going to have peace, you're going to have power, you're going to have fulfillment. You have a plan that's aligned with universal laws, aligned with God. You can only have abundance. That's all that's left. You eliminate all other options. How cool is that?
Cool.
Is that totally cool? Say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Your mind is a tool. What's your mind?
Tool.
Thank you. It's a strategic tool. Your mind solves problems. What's it do?
Solves problems.
So if you don't have any problems, what's your mind do?
Creates one.
Create some. Have you ever noticed things in your life are going great? Like, oh my God, what's going to go wrong? Has anybody ever done that, right? Why? Because your mind, that's what your mind does. It wants to solve stuff, man. So if you don't have a problem, you will at any time. Right? You ever notice your relationship's going well, then you start picking, I don't know, whatever, and then there's a problem, then what about this? And I remember when they did that, or, just stuff. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Stir the frickin' pot because your mind wants something to do. So here's the question. Does your mind control you? or do you control your mind? That's it. Does your mind control you, or do you control your mind? This makes a massive difference in your reference point. So when you see your mind as a tool, I'm not my mind. Say, I'm not my mind.
I'm not my mind.
I control my thoughts.
I control my
We're
thoughts.
supposed to have the thoughts of God. That's why it's spirit, mind, body. Spirit, why? Because our spirit can actually control our mind. We can frame our own mind. Now, how can you tell if your mind is controlling you? Because your emotions are ruling you. Do you rule your emotions, or do your emotions rule you? If your emotions are ruling you, your mind is controlling you. Now, again, I have to give credit to Jada. I'm not an easy person to be with. Because sometimes knowledge is better than experience, but not really. But if something like, Jada, your emotions are controlling you. Now, here's the thing. She knows the same thing, but she doesn't say it to me, right? So here's really have the higher consciousness here. Right? So it's when you don't say it back, then I'm like, shoot. Can't do that anymore. Then this is really it. And when you get this, everything in your life has changed. When you control your mind, you direct life force energy, everything has changed. When you rule your emotions don't rule you. Everything in your life has a new meaning and a new reference point. How cool is that?
Very.
Your relationship with yourself determines your relationship with others.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, thank you. Great for group participation. Now, some people will say, she's very emphatic about that. Some people will say, well, it's my relationship with God that matters. But if you don't feel worthy, how can what's really important? So I grew up Catholic, and right before you receive communion, Lord, I am not worthy to receive you, but just say the word and I shall be healed. Has that been ingrained into my every Sunday? I'm not dogging on Catholicism, but Lord, I am not worthy. Seriously? Like that's it? I'm not worthy to receive you? You created me in your likeness and image. How can I be not worthy? We're going to talk about that in a minute, but that is one thing that, when people say the most important relationship is God, yes, that's important, but if you don't feel you're worthy, then you end up begging. Anybody watch TMT, Tuesday Morning Transformation? 3 people, 4 people, more.
What's TMT?
Thank you. We talked this morning about, do you need a favor? Did you happen to catch it today or not really? Not yet. It's all good.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
One fan in the crowd. That's awesome. I'll take one. That's all we need. Anyway, we talked about, do you need a favor? So it's really about, people, hey, they pray when they need things, when they feel like they're in the desert. And then it says in Isaiah, tap the rock. Moses tapped the rock when there was no water. Rock splits, water pours out, right? Because do you pray when you need favor? Do you pray for rain and you thank the rain when it's raining? Is that a lifestyle? Do we call in that favor? So anyway, it's good TMT. Tuesday Morning Transformation. So how do you know the relationship with yourself? So if that's the most important relationship, then how do you evaluate it? Were you guys asking that question? Yeah. Mm-hmm. There you go. Thank you very much. Number 1, your internal language.
Yeah.
So we always hear the adage, if you talk to other people like you talk to yourself, you wouldn't have any friends, right? So how is your internal language? Are you very critical of yourself? Is it self-deprecating language? So you listen to things that you don't say, not only about yourself, but about others. What's your internal language like? Number 2, what story are you telling? Are you telling the story of your pain? Are you telling a story of a victim? Are you telling a story of problems? If you become conscious, and if we are the being before thought, if we're beingness before thinking, then you can actually catch yourself in present time, in vertical time, in a sense, almost disassociate from yourself, listen to yourself talking, and then separate and say, if I'm consciousness before thinking, is the things I'm saying really getting me what I want in life? And how many times did that answer be not especially? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Now, we're all human, so we want to feel justified, and shit happens. So, sometimes we got to get it off with emotion. The difference is being conscious of your humanity and your divinity at the same time. So there's definitely times, I mean, Jada knows, and Kelly works with me, where I'm like, bitch, 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 bitch. And I know I'm bitching, and I'm human. I want to emote this energy. I want to get it out. And then it's like, okay, I'm done. Now let's get back to what really matters. You know what I mean? And having those moments. So it's not like, if we are telling the story, we're going to go back and forth in the hologram from our humanity to our divinity. It's who we are, right? The thing is to have consciousness of both in present time. That's power. And how do you speak about others? This really determines a relationship with yourself. How you criticize, judge, speak about others. Because really what it's about how we feel about ourselves. Right? And we obviously project that out. So all of life is deciding who you are and then experiencing that. Neil Donald Walsh. So again, we have the choice. We have any moment we can choose. We can just choose and we can decide. That who do you believe you really innately are? And then we can choose. What can we do? Choose to experience that. Making conscious choice to create a new experience based on the real reference point of who we are. Now, when you can do that, your ability to love yourself, it increases exponentially. Then what happens? My internal language changes. I don't need to tell that story anymore because it gave me a gift, right? When you find the gift, you can let go of the pain. We're going to talk about that more. And you don't want to talk about others that way. That it actually doesn't feel good, and I'm going to go through why it doesn't feel good. 3 steps to creating a breakthrough and amazing life. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you curious?
Yes.
Say yes.
Yes.
This is Tony from Tony Robbins. Change your story. So when you're telling whatever story of pain, you want to create an amazing life, you want to create a breakthrough, you got to change your story. How do you change your story? Well, and then you got to change your state. Your state is the feeling in your body. It's your overall emotional, physiologic feeling and state. Change your story, change your state, change your strategy. Those 3 things. Change your story, change your state, change your strategy. Albert Einstein, you can't solve the same problem. Can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Right? Tony Robbins, when you change your state, you change your strategy. When you change your state, you can find a new way. So in that, whenever I have a challenge, I don't ever try and solve a problem when I'm in a state of anxiety or worry or anything like that. What you do is you want to find a solution, a higher solution, because what's going to happen is whatever solution you have, you're going to fuel it with that emotion. I don't want to find a solution that's fueled with anxiety. I want to find a solution that's fueled with a higher consciousness. Right? I don't want to find a solution that's fueled with fear. Then that's not going to be a healthy emotion. I don't want to solve a problem, a challenge in a relationship until I'm in a higher consciousness, which is love. And that's it. So wouldn't that be the best way to solve a challenge in a relationship?
Yes.
From the emotion of love. The chances that you're going to actually solve that problem is much greater in a healthy way. So any challenge in life, first get into a higher consciousness, get into your divinity, see it from above the challenges, see it from love, see it from loving yourself, and then your creativity and your strategy is going to be different. It's going to be far different, far more powerful, far more effective, and way easier. You're just not going to have the same level of stress. So, loving yourself enough to exercise. Do what?
Exercise.
That means we have to experience. What's it mean? Experience the feeling of love with others. It's not about who you have to become. And this is where I think the whole life coaching industry, well, if you want to do this, you have to become this. Well, that goes against everything. The whole self-improvement industry is not really true. Because if you get what you focus on, and I'm really into self-improvement, then what are you always trying to do? Fix a problem with who? Say myself.
Yourself.
And it becomes self-perpetuating, because if you're always in self-improvement, you always want to make yourself better, and you always want to fix a problem, what do you focus on? The problem. So what are you always going to find? Another freaking problem to fix. And that's where it does. It's not who you need to become. That goes against every universal truth of who God created us to be. So it's really not becoming, it's more about releasing. What's it about?
Releasing.
What isn't true? If we can truly get immersed in our innate divinity, we don't need anything else. You know, one of the mantras says the richest person is the one who needs the least. Right? There's billionaires that need everything, they never have enough. Yet there's people, you know, that was my son. You know, he was highly intelligent, a bit ADD, if you just as a label, but just a very unique mind, I would say. I would tell him, you're going to be a multi-millionaire, you're going to live in a van by the river. The amazing thing is that you'll be happy in the van by the river, just don't come home asking me to sleep at my house. You know, if you choose a van by the river, I'm not writing you a check, it's your freaking van. Okay, buy your own van, go to your own spot. I'll still love you just the same, but don't be asking me for checks, right? As it turns out, he's becoming more, actually pretty highly successful. Brilliant kid. So how do you view pain, failure, and self-worth? You know, everybody's a life coach these days because all you got to do is look on Facebook or Instagram and everybody talks about, I am worthy, you know. It's all about self-worth, where worthiness was created by man. There is no worthy or unworthy. It can't exist if we're creating the likeness and image. It's not that you're worthy or unworthy. That's a perception of yourself. There is no worth. You can't be any more valuable than you're created as a spirit to fulfill a soul purpose in a human body, having a human experience. There is no worthy or unworthy. That's human. That's humanity perceiving God from a human perspective. That's an illusionary perspective assigning God to humanity. But it doesn't even exist. It only exists in our mind, but we already learned our mind is a what? It's a tool. It's a problem solver. It's a strategic tool. So of course we're going to say, are we worthy or unworthy? Now it has a nice problem to solve. But that whole thing isn't even true. So how do you view pain, failure, self-worth? Number one, there is no failure. Failure can't exist. There's only learning. There's only human experience. Failure doesn't exist. So, how many people have kids? Hey, when your kid's learning how to walk and he falls down, you go, you're a failure at walking. You go, come on, let me pick you up, do it again. I know you're going to make it, do it again. Well, if you're here to create a soul purpose, to fulfill a soul purpose, you're going to be doing stuff that you've never done before. So what's the probability that you're just going to hit it exactly perfect first time, besides never? Right? So what do? It's ready. Your whole life is ready, fire, aim. Would you guys agree? It's ready, fire, aim. How do you know where to aim? You got to shoot the first arrow.
That's right.
How are you going to hit the bullseye? You got to shoot the first shot. Does that mean you failed, or does that mean you learned something?
Learn something.
Exactly. So if there is no failure, now this is part of loving yourself. Why? Because we look at divorce as a failure. We look at, you know, we can look at our kids as we failed. We look at a job. You know, you look at all these things outside of you, and you identify with achievement that I'm going to talk about in a minute, because we were conditioned to love that way. But if there is no failure, then there's only two questions. One, what did I learn? Because ready, fire, aim. That's life, is ready, fire, aim. Right? When you get married or you're in a relationship, do you know all the challenges that you're going to experience in advance? Hey, in 15 years, you know, we're going to have these kids, and this is what we're going to go through. No, what do? It's faith. And we'll figure it out when we get there. Isn't that how life works? You just freaking figure it out when you get there, because all kinds of stuff's going to happen you have no idea. Right?
Right.
So if there is no failure, and you don't perceive that within yourself, what do you think happens with your ability to love and respect yourself? Is that going to increase?
Mm-hmm.
Say yes.
Yes.
There you go. So see, all these things, it's like, hey, it's like making a lasagna, man. Put the noodles down, put a little Parmesan in there, some ricotta, maybe some spicy sausage, some sauce, some more noodles, right? Because what are we doing? We're layering life. So all of these principles, man, then it's this big fat lasagna, put it in there and bake it, right? Grandpa takes it up from the basement with a bunch of wine. Anybody grow up that way? right? So, but the bottom line is that's what we're doing. When you add all these little things, you're like, what's all this worthy bullshit? Why am I even doing this? It doesn't exist. Yes, I didn't fail. Man, what did I learn? And then what am I going to do? This is knowledge. Knowledge has to turn into action. It doesn't turn into action, you just know a bunch of stuff with a miserable life. Right? Because you have to, knowledge becomes wisdom through experience. Through what?
Experience.
We got to live it, man. If we don't live it in our body, this is the vehicle. To gain wisdom, this is the vehicle. You have to move. You have to emote. You have to do stuff. Take action. Execution is power. Knowledge is not power. Execution is power. And that's how we manifest on the physical plane. Change your story. The path to peace is acceptance. That's it. It doesn't mean you have to agree, but it's acceptance. Why? Just saying what is. And then it's the meaning you assign. But the path to peace, internal peace, is acceptance. What's that mean? Accept everything about yourself. Whoa. That's pretty intense. You know what? I suck at math. Not me, but some people suck at math. You know, Albert Einstein flunked out of school. Right? E equals mc squared, man. Energy, mass times the constant. You know, basically the law of relativity. You know, you look at Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson, highly dyslexic, ADD, mom was an entrepreneur. He owns over 300 businesses, employs thousands and thousands of people, creates billions of dollars. Look at Bill Gates. He's part Asperger's, right? He's got slight Asperger's. Well, what's an attribute of Asperger's? They're socially awkward. The guy probably wasn't the most popular kid in grade school, right? So the thing is accept everything about yourself, because you have only the gifts that you need for your sole purpose. And nobody else has those. So when you understand and you connect with what are those gifts, then you realize I can accept everything about myself. I can accept my eye color, my hair color, my lips, my body type, my mind, the type of mind that I have. Right? Because artists don't do math. You know, I remember I had a buddy who was a total artist at San Diego State. He's like, man, I can't pass a math proficiency test, and I can't graduate. I got to graduate in a semester. So I went down the student ID thing. I put my picture, took his ID, put my picture on his ID card, passed the math test for him, and he graduated. Because he was an artist. Can't do math. All right, fine. You know, whatever, that's what we'll recommend. But the bottom line is accept everything about yourself. Now, if you did that, and you honored your own personal gifts and realized, I don't have every gift in the world. I'm not supposed to. I have just the gifts that I need for my purpose. That's it. Would you love yourself on a higher level?
Yes.
What do you think? Would you honor yourself? Now accept everything about your past as if it was intended and leading you and has led you towards your purpose. Many times our purpose comes from our greatest pain. Right? Now, when I was younger in undergraduate school, I worked at a bar, partying my ass off, and I did a bunch of drugs. Went from cocaine to crystal methadone, did that every day for a while. And one day, I was walking around my house, kind of methed out a bit, and I thought everybody was coming to attack me. I was running around, closing the drapes, and I realized, stop. This is schizophrenic, paranoid delusions right now. And most people, they get to that point, they're addicted. So methadone is highly addictive. I'm having schizophrenic delusions, paranoid delusions. Pretty much you're addicted. And I said, you know, I'm going to be a chiropractor. This isn't consistent. I stopped right there. I had no physical reactions. Because I made up my mind, made a choice. I'm not addicted. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to feel a single result of that, and never looked back from that moment forward. So now you can talk, there's addicts that go through rehab, and you hear these stories. I saw a documentary on it. Rehab once, twice, 3, 4 times, doesn't work, tens of thousands, $100,000, family members do all these interventions, and then one day they just decide, and they're done. Right? So we all have that power to make a decision whenever we want. Sometimes we need assistance, but the bottom line is when you accept your past. So what am I getting at? I remember this guy walked in, he was a patient, he had razor blade cuts all over his arms. I'm like, dude, I think his name was Jeff. I'm like, what's going on? And he said, I cut myself. And he was a drug addict. And I go, you know what, I didn't cut myself, but I'm like, I used to do meth treating all the time. He's like, no way. Because to him, I represented someone successful and motivated and spiritually based, right? But I knew what it was like. You can relate, you can have compassion, because what I went through and what we make it through, when we make it through our pain, our hero story becomes an example to other people. And many times, it's the reason why we go through that pain and we get to the other side, that we can help people that don't know how to get there. And many times that is our purpose. Our hero story through our greatest pain becomes our purpose, but there's only one way. You got to get past it. You have to accept, and this is what we're going to go through next month in the A section, is how to look at everything in your life through a lens, through a God lens, where you can see how all this stuff led me to exactly where I am now, that I can find my purpose and help other people through similar challenges. And that's it. I mean, I'm not up here. The only reason I'm up here is I went through pain. And I don't want other people to go through pain. And it's not necessary. And that's when you watch the Neil Donald Walsh interview. One of the things I said when he was telling about being homeless, I said, look at all the pain that you had to go through. And he interrupted me, to find your purpose. And he interrupted me. He says, no, that's not the point. The point is you don't have to go through pain. And I said, I know, that's why you have a book. But you had to go through it to get to that point where you said, God, I don't freaking get it. Please help me. And so, one of the traits of a very persistent, strong-willed person is you will push and push and push your will right into the biggest crisis. Has anybody besides me ever done that? Because you're really strong-willed, you will push yourself into the biggest freaking problems, and then you're like, oh crap, how do I get out of here? Anybody, you want to push yourself to the limit, and then you find that line that you cross over, and you realize it's way back there, and now you're in deep shit over here. Anybody besides me? Right? Because we want to push our limits. We want to see our human spiritual potential. And we tend to step over certain boundaries, then we start gaining emotional and spiritual maturity. We don't really want to do that as much. Well, we still push boundaries, just not illegal ones. Now imagine if you accepted every person. Which person?
Every.
Every person, as if they're on their own journey in this life, doing the best they can with what they know at that time. Imagine if you looked at people from that perspective. You would see them, not their faults, just their level of consciousness. And that's it. And one of the reasons that I interviewed Neil was got a new book coming out. And in there he talks about, in that book, he talks about, you always hear hurt people. People that are emotionally hurt other people. Why do they do that? Because they have so much pain inside them that they have to release. How do they release pain that they feel inside them? By giving what? Pain to who? Someone else. So people will experience that pain to release it, because it's not about the other person. It's about that's how they heal and release that energy within themselves. So hurt people for their own healing, perceived healing. We've all felt like we've been hurt by people. Would you agree? People have done stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of abuse and relationships, and there's just stuff, right? We're dealing with humanity, with people on different levels of consciousness. When you understand that people, and you see, they're doing the best they can with what they know at that time, then what happens is you don't have that attachment to their behavior. You live in acceptance. It doesn't mean you have to agree. It doesn't mean that you have to be involved with that person. What it means is your paths have crossed, and how do you see it? Because if you can see them as an innate being functioning in a human life, at whatever level of consciousness that they're at, then you don't have to experience the pain with them. You can actually be in an unconditionally innate to innate loving state. And when you can do that, how do you think you would feel about yourself?
Amazing.
Amazing. You would live in love. Because you're above the pain. You're above not comparing, but you're in a consciousness that has an inside-out reference point. When you start adding all of these things together, your ability to truly love, respect yourself, and give love to other people now transcends to another level. Can you see that? A little bit of that right now?
Yes.
Okay, let's keep going. You cannot know love until you, what?
Experience.
From where?
Yourself.
Within yourself. You can't know it. Love is not knowledge. Love is a feeling. It's an experience. And to experience it, you have to give it. Right? Love is something you have to do what?
Feel.
You got to feel it. You can't just know it in your mind. If you're not feeling it, then are you experiencing it? That is conscious. That's why it's called exercising. Motion, doing, right? Exercising love. You have to create the experience of love. And we're going to go through giving and receiving and how you do that. Love is learned. That's it. Children seek love and acceptance from people we seek connection with. Who is it? Parents, teachers, coaches, all these people we want acceptance from. So when we're young, this is who we look to for love. Now, what's the probability that the person we're seeking love from, teachers, coaches, parents, even really know how to love themselves? Because children come in, babies come in, are they just innately loving? Innately, are they loving? They don't know any difference. Everything else is learned. So we're seeking acceptance from beings that probably don't even know how to love themselves. But they're doing the best they can through level of consciousness. So what do? They sought that from their parents, teachers, coaches. And that was learned. And if they never were able to find a new level of consciousness, they go through their whole life like that. Because they're more immersed in their divinity and in their humanity than their divinity. Is that an error? No. It's a journey. Right? Sin is an archery term for missing the mark. Right? So missing the mark to me would be to be in a human form, never knowing your divinity. That would be missing the mark. In fact, I believe that was the message of Jesus and most spiritual leaders, is we have a connection, right? Jesus was crucified by religion because he taught spiritual independence. Can't have that. We need religious rule. Let's turn the Roman army on him, crucify him, right? This guy's an independent. He's the entrepreneur. He wants to change the world. Can't do that. We got to get people coming to the temple. That's business.
It's not good for business.
It's not good for business, man. Spiritual
those
independence.
taxes and all that good stuff.
So, but the bottom line
It goes
is
to the source. You gotta
we seek that connection. So how we give and receive love is typically established between 0 and 7. Most of the challenges that we have or emotions that we have between that age, because it's the way our brain works. Our brain functions on lower frequencies. And from 0 to 7, we're associating conditions with emotions.
Okay.
So we assign meanings at that age. 5 love languages, they're learned. Words, gifts, acts, time, touch, those are things that are learned because we're seeking acceptance. Now, one of the things that's probably most common is acknowledgement. Hey, we do something good, we want love and connection from our parents. What are our human needs? So what do? You're so great, you're so wonderful, thank you. Like, so we learn, wow, when I do good stuff, I get praise. Now, praise can be mistaken for love. So then what do? Love becomes acts. Love becomes achievement. Our own significance and our own self-love means if I achieve this, I feel significance, I get acknowledgement from other people, right? So we do things in relationships, our life becomes a task list, rather than love becomes what we do rather than who we are. And 5 love languages is what we do. Hey man, I was raised in a very affectionate Italian home. Fortunately, we both have the same love language. We touch all the time. We touch ourselves, we touch each other. Everything's wonderful, we're always touching. Right? So that's good. Now the funny thing is, we know a lot of very exceptional people. So, it's funny, you see marriages and people that we know, they have great marriages, but they may have a different love language. So they walk, they're not touching. Like, I don't ever want to walk somewhere and not be holding her hand. Because that connection is, to me and to her, is connection. I want intimate physical connection. When we drive, my hand's on her legs, we're holding hands. That's our love language. I like it, it works for me. So, but again, that may be learned, but how do you express it? But we realize that's not who we are, that's what we do. That doesn't mean that if we don't do that, we don't love each other. All it means is we like that physical connection. We realize we're spirit, mind, body. We use that template with intention, and we create acts that support that. It doesn't define us, but it is a way that we exercise. To see the difference. So you can choose to exercise in any of these ways, but this is not who we are. This does not define love. This is how you experience love. But love is who we are. Does that make sense? Because people say, well, that's my love language because it's a common reality, but that's what you do. That's not who you are. This is illusion. It's been interpreted by identity, not a choice of expression. You're only love. It's all learned. It doesn't define love. It's just a way, it's just a vehicle to show it and to experience it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that change? Does that help you frame things a little differently? Because love is being, it's not doing. You exercise and you experience it through doing. Having the beingness first is a higher level of consciousness. Does that make sense? Separation versus unity. Separation originates from comparison and competition. How do we do that? Hey man, all you gotta do is look at bumper stickers. My kids, top of the class, they got all these medals, all this. It's all achievement, 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 achievement. And we're set up with humanity, we compete. There's winners and there's losers. And here's the problem. If you're ever a winner, what are you gonna be one day?
Loser.
Does it so the minute you classify yourself as a winner, you also set up for your greatest pain. Because not everybody wins all the time. Somebody's going to grow up and kick your ass eventually. It's like the bigger brother beating on the little brother. Little brother gets bigger, stronger, is way tougher, and usually kicks butt of the older brother. If you're a winner one day, you're going to be a loser. If you classify yourself as a loser now, probability you're ever going to be a winner doesn't really matter. It becomes self-deprecating. The whole thing isn't about win-loss. When really what that comparison in people that are highly competitive, Jade is a highly competitive person. We play stupid games. She does everything she can to beat me. And, we play things not like strength games, because that wouldn't be fair, but like agility games. She hates to lose, and I just love to beat her. So, but it's not about that. It's about the laughs that we have. You know what I mean? But really, what competition is not about beating the other person. It's really about assessing yourself. It's really about pushing yourself. So if someone does win, then the first thing would do be congratulations, man. You busted your ass. Maybe you train harder. Maybe you're just more skilled. Maybe this isn't my life purpose. But I don't have to classify and create an identity. Because what's that set you up for? Separation and failure. And how can you love and respect yourself when you have an identity that's outside of yourself according to what you do? And what's the answer? You can't. So you set yourself up for problems. Creates an identity is dependent on conditions outside yourself. And that's just not who we are. That's just in the world. Right? We mistake who we are for what we do. 2 key principles that will change your state. So this is change your story. So we lose competition, we move to unity, we have total acceptance for ourselves and for others, we respect the life path of others, and we have acceptance that everybody's doing the best they can with what they know at that time. Now that's basically helps us change your story. Now how do you change your state? By knowing, by what? Knowing your created perfection to be exactly who you innately are. So if you went back to when you were a little kid, like real little, and you think, man, what was I like? You're probably joyful. You're probably playful. You're probably pretty smart. You could be mischievous. Anybody besides me like that, right? Always, seeing how they could get around the rules. Smart, you have all these traits. And then we learn everything else. So when you understand who you innately are, right, then we can choose to experience that. So if we're created in perfection, we're created in the likeness of image. Now this is knowledge so far, right? Now because of that, you are love. You're a loving being. You're innate. You're spirit first. When you believe, remove all doubt. Believe with 100% faith. I am love. Now you can change your state. Does that make sense? Now you have to breathe that in. Now I have a whole coaching group. This group right now is really to introduce principles. We're going to be doing seminars. We have a whole coaching experience that people can invest in. We're actually going to go through exercises. I have an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to take each section for like 4 to 6 hours and literally transform and create a whole new reference point, and we're going to go through the H.E.A.L.E.D system over a year. Everything else is learned. It's not true. So when you know you're created perfection, be exactly who you're innately created to be, you are love, and realize that anything other than that, you can just let go of. Remove doubt. Now, giving and receiving simultaneously are the same. Here's how you change your state. Are you ready? Yeah. So now that we have that knowledge, now we have to put it into experience. Because knowledge turns into wisdom through what?
Action.
Experience. Your brain doesn't know what's inside of you or outside of you. It only knows what you feel. This is your limbic brain. It doesn't know what's inside of you or what's outside of you. It doesn't know that person did this. All it knows is I feel hurt. It doesn't know that person could be loving. A person who is a self-sacrificer is also self-deprecating. It doesn't know. All it knows is what it experiences. This is why creative visualization is so important in creating and manifesting things in your life. If you feel it in your body and you see it and you feel the emotion, your body truly believes it's happening now and it's in your world. So we understand giving and receiving are simultaneous. Why? Because as you give, you're experiencing the feeling. The what?
Feeling.
The feeling of giving. Now, have you ever bought a present for someone? You're like so freaking excited. Man, I know they're going to love this. I can't wait to give it to them. You give them that gift, you're like, come on, hurry up. And you almost want to tear the wrapping off for them. What do you feel in your body?
Excitement.
Excitement. Are you thrilled to add value to their life?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
It's freaking awesome. That's all your brain knows. It knows what you're experiencing. That's it. Okay? So as you give, you feel the emotion of your experience. So what happens? You become what you give to yourself and others. So we're looking at change our story, now we're changing our state. How do you exercise love for yourself and others? By giving. Contribution is our highest human need. How cool is that? Right? Now, so when you criticize, what do you experience? Criticism. When you judge, what do you experience?
Judgment.
Judgment. So it says, in the Bible, it says, if you judge, you will be judged. So it's not like if I judge someone else, they're going to judge me back. What it is, if I judge, I'm experiencing judgment. That means I'm actually criticizing myself. Well, I would rather go ahead and bang my head against that wall than criticize or judge someone else, because at least the lump on my head will heal, rather than wiring my own pain in myself. Should I say that again? Because when you criticize or judge, what's your brain know? You're wiring judgment and pain. You're actually inflicting pain on yourself. Why would you do that? Because you already feel pain. Why? Because you haven't accepted everything about your past. You haven't really connected with who you are innately. You have framed meanings to your past of pain and things that you've tried to receive love from people that did not love themselves. You've judged it. You've assigned this meaning. And of course, that's what you're going to do. You're going to see imperfections in other people and things that are irritating, because that's how you view yourself. But when you make that love lasagna that we're making, anybody love lasagna? When you make the love lasagna, and you start layering all these things, not just knowledge, but experience, you don't want to do that. And when you become conscious and you notice yourself being critical, and then you step back from yourself and you actually say, how does that feel as I'm judging or criticizing? What do you think that answer is going to be?
Not so good.
It sucks. So you want to wire "it sucks" into yourself? No. So when you truly get this and you understand it and you experience it, you don't want to do that. Why? Because you've already accepted that every person is doing their best with what they know at that time. So when you have that loving perspective and you have that, you don't want to do that anymore. And guess what happens? You actually build, if you want to call it, your self-esteem. How you feel about yourself, which you're becoming more clear about who you are. Both become self-deprecating, destructive, unloving, and create a weakened self-esteem. Now these may not be higher spiritual principles. Metaphysically, it's we are love, we create love, the more love we give, the more we perpetuate. But sometimes we kind of stammer a little bit, we get stuck. We get stuck in our humanity. And so these are tools of how to get from your humanity back into your divinity at any time. And when you become conscious of that, you make a choice. Man, you feel and experience something different. You're actually wiring yourself for compassion. Now there's research that shows, obviously, neuroplasticity. Our brain is alive. We are continually wiring and rewiring based on how we feel. When you can stop in a moment, regardless of your experience, evaluate yourself, come to a place of peace, and make a new choice, you are neuroplastically rewiring your brain for compassion. Mindfulness actively rewires the pain out of your brain and wires compassion into your brain. In fact, research shows your amygdala, the fight or flight system in your brain, when you do this consistently, begins to shrink. So fear in your brain begins to shrink. Your frontal cortex, which is choice and deciding, actually becomes more neurologically dense. So when you practice this consciously, of being mindful, being able to stop in a moment, and you control your mind and emotions rather than your mind and emotions controlling you, you actually, in real time, rewire your brain for loving yourself and loving other people. How cool is that?
That's very cool.
That's already thank you, scientifically proven. Now, when you become aware of your experiences, what do you become?
Aware.
Awareness in the moment, real time, as it is happening when?
No.
Right now. No more participation when?
Now.
Creates what?
Compassion.
Compassion. Isn't that really the bridge from our humanity to our divinity? It's compassion and gratitude and empathy. That's how we get there. How do you do that? Becoming aware when?
Now.
Right now. That's it. This is a habit. You are what you habituate. That's it. You become what you habituate. So do we want to become and be aware more of our divinity and live from that reference point? Would that give more power to your humanity? Is that really more power than you think?
Yes.
Right? You are more powerful than you think. So look at that title. There's a reason. It has intention. When you can break your own pattern through self-reflection, you can make a new choice. You can choose God. You can choose love. You can choose God. Masters choose the same thing every time. What do you think masters choose?
God.
They choose God, they choose love. They're the same thing. Masters are people that have actually, they control their mind. They have intention with actions. They have intention with feelings. Mastery, and that's really our only thing in life. Now, Neil Donald Walsh gave me a concept that we know, but you don't always think about, because we all have big goals and visions. Man, I want to help millions of people around the world find God within themselves, be able to associate with their divinity, find their soul purpose, live a more fulfilling life. I want the world to be different because we live, because we're sitting here now. We're on Facebook Live. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that will be watching, hopefully thousands, eventually millions that will be watching this. And if we can do this, I actually believe that in our lifetime, we can shift the consciousness of humanity. Maybe it's crazy, but crazy people change the friggin' world. You know what I mean? It's like, man, you're out of your mind. Thank you. 58 years took me to get out of my mind and into my heart. That's a freaking compliment. People say, you're out of your mind. Thank you. I want to kiss your feet. It's taken all these years to get from the pain of humanity into the source of divinity. We want to be out of our mind. That's the whole point. Right?
Right.
Yes.
We getting fired up? Are you guys getting fired up about this?
Yeah.
I'm not the only one sitting on my soapbox, am I? Giving begins with having.